who were some of the members of your family, and how far back does it all go?
Well, I mean, there's a attested history for our family in Jerusalem going back to the time of the Crusades.
Okay.
Possibly earlier, but certainly the time of the Crusades or just after. And some of the people who figure in the book are these 19th century figures who, one of whom was a member of the first Ottoman Parliament, mayor of Jerusalem, ends up writing a letter to Theodor Herzl. Another one, his nephew, was also a deputy of Jerusalem in the 1908 Parliament, and also played a role in the Arab reaction to Zionism. So, I mean, there are members of my family who play all kinds of roles in Jerusalem, in law, in education, and in politics. I had an uncle who was the last elected Arab mayor of Jerusalem. I mention him also in the book.
Yeah, I was wondering in particular about this correspondence between the great-great-uncle, how many greats?
What's a great between friends?
Yeah, and Theodor Herzl on the eve of the Zionist revolution.
Right. Yeah, he writes to him in 1899, 2 years after the first Zionist Congress in Basel. And he has lived in Austria. You know, Herzl was a Viennese journalist and published in German. His famous book, Der Judenstaat, the State of the Jews, is published in German. And it's clear that Yusuf Lia Khalidi, who's the person we're talking about, this great-great-great-uncle, had read about the Congress, had read about Zionism. He may well have read the book. We don't know. But he knew a great deal about Zionism. And so he writes to Herzl. And he tells him that, he tells him a variety of things. First of all, he says that we understand the connection between the Jewish people and the Holy Land. We understand the persecution you're subject to in Europe. We understand where Zionism is coming from. So he understands that it's a national project. He understands that it's a reaction to persecution. But he says you're not taking into account the fact that Palestine is already inhabited by a people that's going to resist being displaced. And at the end, he says, for the sake of God, leave Palestine alone. And so this is probably the first recorded, anyway, response by a Palestinian to the very beginnings of Zionism in 1899, so a couple of years after the first Zionist Congress.